Hello, everyone, and welcome to the panel discussion on synergies and the importance of collaboration in amplifying social impact. So, my name is Patricia, and I am the program officer at PhilDev Foundation, and I'll be your moderator for this session. So, synergy and collaboration has been at the forefront of a lot of successful startups and social enterprises in the Philippines. And especially in this difficult time, amplifying collaborations among stakeholders has become a crucial thing in enabling vulnerable enterprises to stay afloat and survive the effects of the pandemic. So, for this session, we'll attempt to discuss what it means specifically for social enterprises to have meaningful collaborations and explore how different sectors can collaborate to help accelerate impact and especially in the new normal. So, to start off our program, we'd like to call on Mr. Eric Tomacruz, the Executive Vice Chairman of PhilDev Foundation, to welcome our participants.
Thank you, Sasa. Hello, everyone. The PhilDev Foundation dreams of a Philippines wherein all citizens have equal access to a better life. Through its many programs, it has been working towards creating an environment wherein Filipinos can use science and technology to develop innovative, creative, and entrepreneurial solutions to persisting social and economic challenges. As we do our mission, we acknowledge the value of collaborations to amplify the impact that we want to make. Thus, we work to forge meaningful partnerships among various stakeholders to create opportunities for Filipinos to help themselves and strive for inclusive and sustainable growth. Before COVID-19 pandemic, the Philippines has been dubbed as one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, with 6% GDP growth in 2019. However, despite having a notable economic performance in recent years, it has been observed that growth has not been inclusive. Now, in the pandemic, opportunities have gotten more limited, if not inaccessible to the poor. COVID-19 has taken a toll on the Philippine economy. According to another report as of October 2020, the Philippines' GDP shrunk by 9% compared to last year's GDP value. To prevent further spread of the virus, strict quarantine guidelines were implemented in the country's major cities and restricted citizens' physical movement. Thus, in turn, adversely affected businesses. According to a study conducted by the Asian Development Bank in July 2020, two-thirds of businesses closed down, and those that remained open had to work with reduced operations. Only 4% of businesses remained fully functional. This led to major job loss, estimated by the WSWS in July 2020 to be approximately 30 million unemployed Filipinos. Nonetheless, amid this dire times, a budding breed of startups is growing to answer the changing needs of the market and the needs of the underserved communities. These startups are social enterprises, or SEs. They have been employing innovative, creative, and entrepreneurial solutions to help bridge the income gap and address the country's lack of inclusive growth. According to a study conducted by the British Council in 2015, SEs in the Philippines contribute to employment generation, poverty alleviation, improvement of local communities, empowerment of the marginalized, environmental protection, and cultural preservation. At this time of the pandemic, SEs have been at the forefront of distributing value in the economy by supplying innovative products, providing much needed employment, and delivering critical support to companies and communities. We at PhilDev Foundation acknowledge the potential of SEs in alleviating poverty in the Philippines. Thus, it has collaborated with the United Nations Development Program in the Philippines and the Australian Embassy in the Philippines to support the growth and acceleration of technology-based and technology-enabled SEs through the Innovation for Social Inclusion Partnership. However, it takes more than one collaborative effort to support the development of the SE sector in the Philippines. It would take the concerted effort of the government, private sector, civil society, and the academe to enable SEs to bring more impact to their partner communities and bring value to the economy. We hope that through this panel discussion, we would explore and showcase the unique position of social enterprises to power up a more inclusive and sustainable new normal. We hope that through the presentations and discussions of our panelists, we would highlight the value of collaboration and supporting the social enterprises to accelerate and amplify impact amidst this rapidly changing and unprecedented time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Eric, for that message. And we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with us today. So for today, we have three amazing speakers that will discuss how multiple ecosystem engagements can create inclusive change. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker. Ms. Georgie Pantoja is the CEO and founder of Coffee for Peace, a social enterprise that helps promote peace and economic stability in conflict-affected communities in Mindanao. Under her leadership, Coffee for Peace runs capacity building programs on peace and reconciliation through engaging small coffee farmers in a sustainable and just value chain production of global quality coffee. In addition to that, Ms. Georgie is also one of the recipients of the 2020 Oslo Business for Peace Award. Ms. Georgie, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Joji Pantoja from Coffee for Peace, and I would like to share with you how synchronized energy on collaboration can produce sustainable social impact. Next slide, please. I would like to talk about collaboration. Collaboration is just like working on different kinds of flower. When put together, can turn into a very beautiful bouquet, fitted for a specific occasion or to the taste of the recipient. It enhances each one's contribution to the whole, a beautiful flower bouquet. The most important thing in life is not what you do or accomplish alone, but rather with the people you work with to accomplish a finished product or a project together. Next slide, please. To do proper collaboration, one has to be clear on the goal or vision. What is your vision? It should be clear that the people who works around you understand what you are doing and where you are taking them. Otherwise, you will be alone. For Coffee for Peace, we want to put and serve just coffee in every cup. Our focus is on the justice orientation on how we source our coffee, how we process our coffee, how we roast our coffee, and how it lands in the hands of the consumer. Justice and peace go together with mercy and truth that is energized by love. We truly love our people, especially the marginalized one in the conflict areas. We want them to experience peace and justice and love. Next slide, please. As we collaborate, we should be aware of our strength and our weaknesses. No man is an island. You cannot do it alone. Coffee for Peace has to change its mindset to a we mentality. We may be able to collaborate and work with different communities on the ground, but we need to learn that there are big players also in the coffee sector. It is knowing where your place is. Coffee for Peace started as a micro social enterprise. We have to learn the trade and have a proof of concept of our model. Our strength is our social capital and the foundational value of our corporation that is based on justice and peace. We are almost three-fourths on our experiment. It is not yet finished. Then there are those corporations who are already big in the coffee industry and has no problem with expansion. We learn from them and collaborate with them. Next slide, please. We try to see where we could work together for the same goal. It is like a jigsaw puzzle. You have to see how those roles, rules, and relationship will work. You have to learn how to seek, see, and seize the opportunity. Will it contribute to your vision? Next slide, please. That is how Coffee for Peace works. Our partner NGO, where I started, is Peace Builders Community. We work with them on the 6-month training module that we used for the farmers. We are also engaged with our buyers who wants to see justice in coffee trading. We treat our employees as family. We see to it that they are covered by the basic benefits that is available for them. We eat the same food together. We are active in our regional coffee cluster and collaborate with other coffee players. We are also connected with government agencies to lobby for the needs of our farmers. We are fair with our resellers so that all of us will benefit. And now, under the new normal, we are adding digitization in the curriculum of the farmers, implementing cashless payment for our consumers, and working with fintech companies to help us in our e-commerce. All of the awards that we have received is because of the collaboration we have implemented. Next slide, please. Let me close with this. We have to choose and decide to be extrinsic thinking or collaborative thinking. We have to know our role, the rules that we played on, and the relationship. Do not be scared of failure. Learn from your failure. Learn to respect others. Stay focused on your goal. Aim high. When you are doing your purpose in life, the rest will follow. So enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Georgie. And I like what you said about the we mentality. We all need that right now. Okay, so our next speaker is Mr. Kevin De La Cruz, the Entrepreneurship and Incubation Manager at PhilDev Foundation. So Kevin has been working in the development sector for 9 years, assuming various roles as a social entrepreneur, government consultant for livelihood and education, and a program development manager. He's also the founder and lead consultant of Strago Solutions Consulting, working with clients coming from both public and private sectors, focusing on development, sustainability, and management. Welcome, Kevin.
All right. So thank you very much, Sasa. Right. So let me share my presentation. Okay. So thank you very much again for giving us this opportunity to be able to share in the Philippine Startup Week. So this evening, I would like to present Rise Up, Scale Up, Collaborating the PhilDev Way. So let me just start with this quote. According to Alexander Graham Bell, great discoveries and improvements invariably involve the cooperation of many minds. So when you talk about startups and when we talk about the other sectors that support the entire ecosystem, it's very essential that they interact constantly because the ecosystem primarily is the one that enables the ecosystem is primarily dependent on these interactions. So startups cannot thrive alone, um, cannot succeed alone without really the close support of course, the private sector and other institutions. And it really requires a lot of collaboration so that a lot of new ideas can spring out. And when we talk about collaboration, why do we need to collaborate? Okay, so the first one is collaboration addresses our blind spots. So startups specifically, okay, especially social enterprises, are in need of multiple perspectives because when the founders will be encountering their respective when they develop their enterprise models, they will need a lot of new inputs from sectors and people from different backgrounds to strengthen their market engagement, to strengthen their operational model. Second is collaboration improves on our strengths and complements on our weaknesses. Because sometimes as startup founders, there's a requirement for us to, of course, to recognize that we can only do as much based on our competencies. So for a lot, no, most are focused on business development, some are on marketing, some are focused on impact, working with communities. But we need other organizations to augment, no, and other professionals perhaps, no, to augment what the knowledge, no, the knowledge gap that we have that will boost startup growth. The third point is collaboration integrates various perspectives. Because again, no, when we talk about the current industry right now, no, given that startups consist only of roughly 1% of the total enterprise sector, there's a need for it um, to grow based on what other sectors will say. I mean, let's say, okay, what will be, given that it's trying to get funding, the startup will try to expand further. There's a need to consult with the communities at the same time, no, with the ones who are professional, no, in their field. And then the next one is collaboration multiplies our impact. So and definitely, no, it's not just the innovations that are within the startups that are actually that actually expands, but also the bandwidth, no, of the startups, because definitely startups provide not just solutions for one community, okay, but also solutions for many more, no, that can impact, no, the market and the communities around the country. And collaboration sustains our initiatives because when we deal with several partners, no, they will also be part, no, of the effort that will bring the startup idea to other regions around the country. So collaboration merely internally, no, will not be sufficient. Should we bring the idea to more parts around the world, no? So we're talking about market engagement again. We're also dealing with operational efficiency. So collaboration really is very important um, in the growth of any startup or even especially a social enterprise. So let me now talk about, no, the work of PhilDev Foundation. And this is actually at the core of what we do, that we actually spark collaboration so that the innovations being developed by startups and social enterprises will expand further. So primarily, we are an innovation-driven nonprofit organization that accelerates national development through science and technology-based initiatives and partnerships. So we are really partnership founded and centered on partnerships. And to facilitate the growth of the startups, now what we do as a big brother, okay, as for the community, is we look at it in the value chain perspective. Value chain in terms of startup production, meaning we start, of course, no, to enable this, we bring together government organizations, the academe, private industry in harnessing science and technology for sustainable and inclusive economic growth. So we definitely start with where the heart of the innovation is, which is in the academe. So we start with education. So we believe that young people have the capacity to uh, to to really start researches, relevant researches to answer the problems of communities around the country. So we really provide support, no, both in the scholarship and also in their respective incubators. And then once the educators and the institutions will develop these researches, these these aspiring startups will be propelled, not towards innovation. Okay, so what we do is we strengthen our links within among organizations, the academe and private industry, and investing in research and development so that we can bring this knowledge from the academe forward. And lastly, no, for entrepreneurship, we empower, we create a culture of creativity, turning ideas into viable, scalable, and sustainable enterprises that create jobs and share wealth in the community. Because in the end of the day, no, we each of these three advocacy components are dependent, no, on each other. That we will not have enough pipeline of entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs without the academe, and vice versa. No, no student will be able to pursue entrepreneurship without, of course, the inspiration that comes from the entrepreneurs themselves. And so, how are we becoming big brothers to our startups and our SE partners? So, this is our approach in achieving sustainable and inclusive economic growth as part of our mission in PhilDev to eradicate poverty in the Philippines. So, quickly, no, we actually conduct incubation. So, we work with startups with social impact and with the ability to scale fast. So, through the programs that we have, no, with social enterprises, specifically the ones with identified social issues, okay, that are aligned primarily with the sustainable development goals. So how are they able to resolve that through their startup innovation? And then they have the potential for scale and differentiation, because what we want is, of course, not to bring these ideas, no, to achieve more impact in more communities in the Philippines. And we wanted to see validated business models with traction and revenue so that we can see how we can further develop, no, these models to, of course, not to be more resilient, and at the same time resilient in terms of how can they be more foolproof, no? Actually, no, to when they are expanding to more regions in the Philippines. And then we're catering to early and late stage enterprises. And we are also looking for founders with full-time commitment, deep insights, and ability to execute, because we are in need of more committed entrepreneurs, no, who will really be there, no, to work on sustainability, work on the sustainability of their ideas until the end. Okay. And then we provide, so within the incubation, we provide support services. So we have lectures ranging from founder identity to execution to actually providing them with impact strategies, okay, and teaching them as well, no, on how they can evaluate, no, their their themselves, no, in terms of their asset size, no, as a startup. So it's very important because when we look at social enterprises, we have to look at both the impact perspective, both the impact that they're making and their business model, because both amplify each other. And then we invite industry experts to share their knowledge, insights, and experiences. And then we also provide check-ins, mentoring sessions, so that their specific needs will be catered to, depending on what they need at the moment, especially now in what we're facing. No, a lot of pain points have been addressed, no, currently by PhilDev, so that they're able to thrive even amidst the crisis, no. And then, of course, we have investment readiness assessment. So we wanted to see if they are already at the point where they can receive impact investment as a social enterprise. And also, we've been conducting innovation challenges to also tap our technology business incubators and tech hubs, specifically across the Philippines, so that we can actually solve problems in education and other concerns that our different communities will need, so that startups will be able to will focus on actual social concerns and developing market-based solutions. There. And then we also provide capacity building for universities through technopreneurship hubs. So what we do is we work with Commission on Higher Education. We also work with USAID and UNDP to be able to provide these trainings. Because as a big brother in the startup ecosystem, we would like to provide trainings so that more startups and solutions will be produced or be ready, no, in the pipeline. Okay. And then our reach is national. So from Region 1 until Region 9. No? So all of them are our partners, no? From St. Louis University down to Ateneo de Davao University. So as you can see, we are conducting all these programs with them so that we will have a regional, we have a more localized reach when it comes to startup development and making an impact. And then for universities, now we've been conducting the same activities. So other than the enterprises, of course, no, we're really challenging further the students on how they can take a leap in terms of startup development and collaboration, okay, so that they can develop their ideas. So here are some startups and social enterprises we have supported. So one of which, of course, is Coffee for Peace. Of course, Miss Georgie, no, who's the speaker earlier, no, we're supporting them as well in our programs in PhilDev. And for my last point, I would just like to coin, okay, this quote from Henry Ford: "Coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success." So partnerships are necessary towards not just the development of any startup and social enterprise, but also making an impact in their respective communities. So in behalf of the entire PhilDev Foundation, thank you very much again for listening, and have a great evening.
Kevin. So last but not least, like to call Mr. Gomer Padong, who is the programs and development, who handles the programs and development cooperation at the Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia, or ISEA. He is the co-coordinator for Women's Economic Empowerment Transformative Initiatives in Agricultural Value Chains as part of the GRISEA program influencing ASEAN in partnership with Oxfam and the Swedish Embassy in Bangkok. So Sir Gomer was also a research coordinator of a very recent action research on the impact of COVID-19 to Philippine social enterprises entitled Inclusive and Innovative Pathways to Recovery, Social Entrepreneurship as Strategy in Leaving No One Behind and Building Back Better in the Philippines. He also leads the Secretariat of the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition, a platform in advancing social entrepreneurship as an approach to poverty eradication and economic development. Sir Gomer?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here and fortunate to be in a panel with Georgie and Kevin to share some insights from the social enterprise space and to celebrate also the Philippine Startup Week in 2020. I also appreciate all of you coming and sharing with us your time at a period when there are competing Zoom meetings and online activities, yet you chose to join us this afternoon. Um, I'm Gomer, and I handle programs and development cooperation at ISEA, and I also lead the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition as secretariat. My assigned topic for today is around opportunities for the social enterprise sector amid COVID-19. And let me start by referencing to a very recent report which we released in October. And this is around inclusive and innovative pathways to COVID-19 recovery and using social entrepreneurship as a strategy in leaving no one behind and building back better in the Philippines. The full research report may be downloaded at ISAIA's website. Social enterprises now face the challenge of reimagining how to sustain serving the marginalized groups while the sector itself recovers. The research I was talking about earlier was undertaken to inform the development of a responsive relief and recovery effort for the social enterprise sector in the Philippines and an agenda for the sector to make a significant contribution towards building back better and fairer. Besides developing strategies and putting forward concrete recommendations, including possible programs, initiatives, and policies, the Social Enterprise Action Research looked at the effects of the pandemic to social enterprises and also to find out how social enterprises and their stakeholders are responding and coping to the health pandemic. Um, this slide actually tells us some of the results from a survey that we conducted in April and May as part of the research. And it tells us that at least 96% of social enterprises experience some downturn to major downturn compared to statistics from pre-COVID days. About 4% has had a positive impact, and these were in the areas of essential goods, um, like rice, when cooperatives of rice farmers were tapped by local government units for their rice to be included in relief packages. As to sales and revenues, 31% of social enterprises said that their sales declined by 100%. 29% said that sales declined by 50%, but not entirely. And about a third said sales declined by 50% and below. Next slide, please. This slide shows a differentiated impact on the social enterprise and poverty sectors they serve, and also how they responded to such differentiated impacts. The research also shows influencing factors, and this may be classified into internal and external factors. Um, just to give you a sense of the internal factors, this may be the level of maturity and sustainability of the social enterprise, including diversity of income sources and the extent of digital and ICT integration during the pandemic. The second one is the nature and extent of partnerships or relations with resource institutions and governments. Another one is the level of leadership and organizational agility and entrepreneurial management competencies, including capacity for managing change and innovation. On the other hand, external factors include the nature, the type of product or service, or the value chain or economic subsector where the social enterprise is situated. The location, this is urban versus rural, and the access to infrastructure support, including digital infrastructure. Another one is the presence of social enterprise resource institutions. Next slide, please. The more vulnerable SEs have closed and stopped operations, and this is due to a combination of internal and external factors, which I mentioned earlier. But the sustainers actually have adopted measures or mechanisms to immediately respond to their drastically changed situation. The sustainers or the social enterprises who remained open are rebuilding and are pursuing innovations towards recovery. They are reconfiguring their social enterprise models or pursuing their pre-pandemic social enterprise models proven to be more relevant now. What is common for all social enterprises, even those which have closed, as well as those which sustain operations, is their commitment to put the needs of poverty sectors first the best way they can. Just to share some inspiring social enterprise models and responses to the pandemic, not just in the Philippines, but also in our neighboring countries. Um, Next slide, please. Social enterprises demonstrated actually values of social equity, sustainability, and solidarity towards marginalized sectors, communities, as well as social entrepreneurs and frontliners through the delivery of health services, masks, personal protective equipment, health and sanitation products, the production and delivery of healthy food and basic needs, the provision of jobs, livelihoods, and agricultural services, as well as markets, and of course, in the information dissemination, education, relief, and other services. Social enterprises showed how empowered small producers have achieved food security and resilience at the time of the pandemic. Social enterprises also pursued social innovation and creatively utilized ICT and social media to be more responsive and enhanced outreach. And this is towards a community oriented digital economy. Social enterprises also mobilized stakeholders, community assets, and networks in reaching the most vulnerable, including far-flung areas, to actually bridge digital and social divide. And in some instances, social enterprises disrupted markets for the common good. Some of our social enterprise models around this can be viewed actually at the ISEA Facebook page, where we featured at least 10 social enterprises, not just in the Philippines, but in Asia. And these are some of the learnings that we had from a 10-week webinar series on this. Next slide, please. Going towards our topic on synergy and collaboration, I would want to offer a collaborative platform and opportunity around the Poverty Reduction through Social Entrepreneurship Coalition in the Philippines. A broad network working for the advancement of social entrepreneurship to address and achieve the SDGs. Primarily, the present coalition actually pushes for a poverty reduction through social entrepreneurship bill in Congress and in Senate. And as early as June, the present coalition has released a statement calling Congress and national government to set up dedicated social enterprise stimulus packages and programs to support the recovery of the poor and marginalized sectors who have been hit most by COVID-19. In that statement, it reads, more than ever, social enterprises need to be given the recognition and support as innovative partners in government in assisting the recovery of the poor, who are social enterprise stakeholders themselves, who have been affected the most, and whose ranks are growing amidst COVID-19 and its aftermath. It continues, more than ever, we need a national poverty reduction through social entrepreneurship program as enshrined in the proposed bill to create decent jobs, sustainable livelihoods in strategic economic subsectors and value chains where the poor are concentrated and could be major players. Social enterprises need a package of support in the form of hybrid financing, a combination of loans and grants to enable the creation of new and the recovery of existing social enterprises towards effectively engaging the poor as workers, suppliers, clients, co-owners, and partners in economic recovery and building back better. More than ever, social enterprises need national and um, local governments to provide market development support, as well as to become markets in social enterprises through provisions that give preferential treatment and special allocations to them in government procurement of goods and services. Besides the present bill advocacy, there are other innovation initiatives with various government agencies including the setting up of a social enterprise recovery and fund, which we are looking forward to partner with various organizations. Through this, we at ISEA and the present coalition are looking forward to working with all of you in the coming days. I'm very fortunate that PhilDev has joined the coalition, and as well, we have the support of Coffee for Peace and our colleagues in Mindanao in the coalition as well. And that's it. Thank you very much. My last slide is just my email address. And you can also follow me on Twitter. The Institute for Social Entrepreneurship in Asia also has a Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn accounts. Thank you very much and good afternoon. Looking forward to engaging with all of you in the next part of the panel discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Gomer. And thank you again to Miss Georgie and Kevin. So now I'd like to delve more into the topic on collaboration with a few questions to our speakers. Then later on, but we're also encouraging the viewers to type in your questions so we can address them later on. Yeah. Okay. So for my first question is for Kevin. You mentioned about the dynamics between various stakeholders and the like the academe, government, the private sector, and how it plays out. But can you share your thoughts on the conditions that are usually present or the key factors in a successful collaboration or making a certain venture successful or partnership?
Okay. So thank you, Sasa, no, for that. For when we talk about partnership, the first one is we're talking about resources. So sometimes, no, when we're talking about investment funding, specifically, no, I mean they might have certain priorities that they wanted to pursue, no, for as far as collaboration is concerned. And definitely, when you talk about the perspective of stakeholder engagement, no, if there might be some organizations that would like to support you, but if they are not yet if their resources no are not able to they are not able to invest on you yet, no, be it in terms of money for investment or be it in terms of effort, no, they will have to step back. I think that will be the greatest factor is really the resources that the stakeholders will have. So it's very important. Then the second one is vision. I mean, it's very important that the collaboration will have a clear direction of where it will go. So I think with what Gomer emphasized earlier, no, with the present coalition, I mean, since we're all working in the social enterprise space as well, it's very important that I mean we are coming together through in collaboration, even through coalitions, to really push for possible policy support for social enterprises in the future. So I think it's also crucial, even in startups, that even company partners that they will have, even with your respective markets, you should have the same vision. And lastly, when another factor that can come in is actually your timing. Proper timing is very important because especially for startups, no, there is always a window of opportunity when it comes to okay, if it's something that's relevant right now, if it's a product that you think is relevant to the market, or do you think that the communities that you're working with, is it the right time that the product will be released or the services will be rendered? So I think it's very crucial, no, for any engagement that we will have. So timing, resources, and the vision. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. So, are there additional insights from our other panelists?
I can add a few thoughts in this. I like what Kevin said about the vision because as independent organizations coming together in a collaborative platform, may it be a coalition or may it be a program which entails partnerships. We would like to see we would like to get on the same page where the program, where the collaboration is going to. So we start with the end in mind, basically. Another component or another aspect that needs to be looked at and to be considered would be capacities of organizations who are coming together, because of course we are coming in from different perspectives, from different starting points, right? And that should be considered so that expectations will be managed as well, and that we are able to maximize the participation of organizations who are coming to the program, or who are coming to the partnership or the collaboration.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Gomer. Ms. Georgie, do you have anything to add to that?
I think I support what the two speakers have said, Kevin and Sir Gomer. Um, it's the vision. You have to be clear on your vision so that you can see who you wanted to partner with. Because there are those investors who have a lot of money, but they just want the profit side, but not the community side. So for us, Coffee for Peace, that's very important that we spouse on the same vision and the same value that we are pursuing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Georgie. But and while we're on that thought, actually my next question is for you. And given the success of Coffee for Peace in conflicting areas in Mindanao, what do you think is the next step or other collaboration opportunities that will give the best outcome for your company and your beneficiaries, specifically during this pandemic?
Yeah, it's very challenging right now because of the lockdown and border crossing the border issues here
Mhm.
in Mindanao. So right now we have several communities that are lined up for training, and we have one just around Mount Apo that we will still be continuing picking up their um, coffee cherries and processing it, but the actual training will be happening next year. And so we are preparing those communities, and that's why the partnership of fintech companies or those who are good in digitization of the training and all those, like creating podcasts, creating video, so that we can maximize our training without the physical presence there, and have just a facilitator that lives in that area that can facilitate the training. So those are the challenges that we face, but hopefully we can transcend that. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Georgie. And yeah, like what Sir Gomer said earlier in his presentation, that leveraging technology is important in, trying to survive our situation now. Okay. So for my next question, actually, is for Sir Gomer. So actually, most of my questions you already answered in your presentation, but I guess I just like to ask, in your opinion, what do you think is the biggest challenge right now in the SE sector? And what do you think are the most critical changes? And if there is a timeline that the Philippine startup or social enterprise ecosystem must make in terms of having a multi-sectoral partnerships successful?
Um, Sorry, I didn't quite get the first one. What's the first question again?
Ah,
Sorry, if you can repeat
okay.
it, Sasa.
Yeah.
My internet is
Um,
kind of defeating me now.
oh no. Okay. Oh, okay. So what is the biggest challenge in the SE sector at the moment? And the second part is, what do you think is the most critical changes, or if there is a timeline that the Philippine ecosystem, social enterprise ecosystem, should make in making, in enabling enterprises to scale in this or live through the pandemic?
Okay. The first part of the question is around the most the biggest challenge of the social enterprise space. I think social enterprises in the Philippines have already established good work. They have already did their what do you call this, made their impact stories in the communities that they are working with. And I guess it's time for a fragmented ecosystem to actually come together. That's the biggest part because again, the Philippines as an archipelago, a lot of social enterprises are budding from different parts of the country. Initially, social enterprises were actually clustered in big cities, but now we can see social enterprises as far as Tawi-Tawi, as far as Batanes. The Bangsamoro region has very colorful stories of social enterprises. Most recently, they actually passed the Bangsamoro Administrative Code, which actually has a provision of cooperatives and social enterprises, which sets up a social enterprise authority in the regional government under the office of the chief minister, and that's the first what do you call this, a first law in the Philippines which captures social enterprise language, and that actually gives us a very good sense of how we can come together as a sector and really relate to each other and project our collective impact, so that we can get more resources, we can spread more impact. And when I talk of impact, it's the depth and scope of stakeholders and stakeholders in our collective work. Yeah. And then the other aspect to it, the other part of the question, I really get the sense that through the passage of a social enterprise policy at the national level can actually put us all together in one page, can actually put us all together, bind us all together as social enterprises, so that we can dream more of bigger things that can happen outside of our social enterprises. Right now, each social enterprise, each startup, each founder is concentrated on just their own social enterprise. And we recognize that they are already doing good in that aspect. It's time for us to really come together and take it a step further. And I guess it's we have that space now because I if there's one thing that COVID has taught us, it's actually to partner, it's actually to talk to one another and actually come up with a single agenda, so that um, we get through this together. No one is left behind, even though some of our social enterprise colleagues and founders are actually struggling in pivoting their social enterprise models to adjust to the current normal, to what we call the new normal, which is actually a very drastically changed situation from where we begin with in the first place. So yeah, I'd like to hear some thoughts of Miss Georgie and Kevin. Miss Georgie as a practitioner and as a founder around this, and then Kevin also as an ecosystem
Yes.
builder and part of the system.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's really time for other SEs to join hands together. Like in the ESIP program, I have met several SEs that are based in Mindanao. So whenever we are here, they come to our coffee shop and we plan things together. And we push and form an SE group so that we can strengthen each other. Next would be, aside from working together with other SEs, is also talking about how we can push our identity as social enterprise, not just lumped as MSME,
Mhm.
but a social enterprise trying to provide solution to the social problem that we see. And I think our government needs to hear that, and that's why we boost the um, present coalition, that it could be lobbied in the political system so that our senators and congressmen would recognize the importance of social entrepreneurs and social enterprise in the society as a whole. So that would be my take on that.
Okay. When it comes to collaboration, no, I mean, definitely, if to add, no, it's more of really, I mean, as PhilDev, no, given the work that we have with universities, with government institutions, even with entrepreneurs. So it's part of our actually, no, we're accountable to really provide clear articulation as to how because I think normally the barriers to engagement is awareness and understanding, and it's very crucial even in developing the vision. So how do we work together in cooperation if there's no understanding? So there's a need for us to really understand deeply on our roles in the society in general, because I think if the existence of silos really can be broken if of course no we are able to um, make, let's say, when you're talking about technology startups, it's no that the only difference is the I mean, perhaps no, it's the priority of the startup growth. I mean, technology, it's all about of course exponential growth, market engagement, um, and at the same for social enterprises, it's really impact. So there's a need for technology entrepreneurs, technology startups to really understand um, how social entrepreneurs respond, no, to the to challenges, what are their priorities as far as development is concerned. And at the same time, social enterprises will see how they can integrate with these entrepreneurs. So we can see that a lot, no, in our recent social impact accelerator for PhilDev. No, so we've been seeing a lot of technology entrepreneurs who are actually, developing further how they are trying to scale their impact. And with that understanding, it's easier for us to, to engage the other sectors to see how they can be involved in contributing to the space. And I think it will be easier for us to even lobby policy, no, given that. So there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you to our speakers for those insights. So before we end the discussion, I just have a last, siguro one last, well, not a question, but I'd like each speaker to like provide a short message that you would want the audience to take away. Maybe we can start with Miss Georgie. Yeah.
Okay. This is what I have stressed earlier in my presentation. First, as a social enterprise, you should know what you wanted to achieve, like your goal. So focus on your vision and aim high as you can. Because if you reach, let's say, if you reach the sky, if you aim for the sky and you only reach the star, at least you achieve higher. So don't lose hope, learn from your failures, and use the we mentality. It's important to collaborate with each other because no man is an island. You cannot do the solution yourself. You have to work with other social enterprises to provide solution to the many problems of our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Georgie. Sir Gomer, you want to go next?
Actually, I would encourage everyone. I'm sure not all of you are social enterprise founders. What I would say is encourage everyone to actually buy social enterprise products. By buying social enterprise products, you're actually supporting the growth of the ecosystem, and it's a subliminal message to social enterprises out there to continue the work. And there, I appreciate again. you coming to this session, and we look forward to more learning sessions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Okay, so I will just like to reiterate that as a social enterprise or even as a startup, there's no monopoly of knowledge, so you cannot do it alone. So there's a need for you to collaborate because it opens up new perspectives, it opens up new ideas, it opens up new ways on how to um, develop your ideas. Because in the end of the day, as a startup, we should thrive in an ecosystem, and its collaboration is really a key to success, and in making impact. And speaking of success, for those who are here watching, who are social entrepreneurs, okay, so we are encouraging you to apply. Speaking of connecting, you please do apply in our third installment, of our social impact accelerator. So we are officially opening applications this month. I mean, the moment you're watching this, we have already opened it in our social media page. So please do visit our social media page in PhilDev Foundation and Innovation for Social Impact Partnership. And of course, other than that, please do also visit our page, esip-ph.com, okay, for more details on the applications. So please do apply. There.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Miss Georgie, Sir Gomer, and Kevin for sharing how collaboration between various key stakeholders is crucial in building back a better normal for the Philippines. So we've seen in this panel how social enterprises like Coffee for Peace are uniquely positioned to contribute to nation building and accelerate our achievement of inclusive economic growth and sustainable development amidst the challenges like COVID-19. So, as we also heard from Kevin and Sir Gomer, um, social enterprises need an enabling environment for them to thrive and continuously make an impact in their communities. It is the role of enterprise supporting organizations like us, the academe, private sector, and the government to collaborate and foster such ecosystem for startups and social enterprises. At PhilDev, we are a strong believer in the power of innovation and entrepreneurship to eradicate poverty and enable the success of Filipinos. We may be going through exceptional times today, but we are hopeful that we will have a more sustainable and resilient future ahead of us with impact driven businesses and innovations taking the lead. We look forward to see a stronger and more resilient local social enterprise ecosystem in the Philippines. Thank you, everyone, and have a pleasant evening.